Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. In the name of Allah Almighty, the most beneficent and the most merciful, we start another session, Coffee with CEO. This is basically a gift to the society, a service to the community by CEO Club Pakistan and CEO Today magazine. The basic, the philosophy, the concept, the theme of such kind of conversation is just two areas we focus. The first is because in Pakistan, especially young people, the youth, they think they are directionless, and especially a lot of researchers show. And the second is after the COVID, even the COVID still is here, people are very feeling dejected, despondent, and depressed. So we need inspiration. So there are two areas we most of the conversations we talk about, and we bring best of the best Pakistani thought leaders, intellectuals, writers, leaders, CEOs, and policymakers. And today we have invited a special guest. It's really a great honor for us, Mr. Roy Andersen, who's basically by DNA, by nature, he's an educationist, he's a born teacher, he's a writer, he's an author, and right now he's the principal of Kingston College in Pakistan. For the last almost 1 year plus, he's in Pakistan serving the greater cause of education. And we will have a conversation, just lighter conversation about the insight of the educational system, political system, and above all the latest technology and innovation and artificial intelligence. Mr. Roy, welcome to Management Law.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much, brother.
Sir, Mr. Roy, please introduce yourself. You were born in UK, Liverpool. You served the cause of education. You authored many books. Please share your journey, and you ended up landing in Pakistan, again serving this cause of education. Over to you, sir.
I would explain that my journey in education began as a child.
Okay.
Because as a child, I didn't understand what was happening in the school system. I was bullied, I was insecure, I didn't know how to control the information I was given, and I didn't basically understand it. When I was 16, they said to me, "You're not clever enough to do mathematics in your final examination, you should do arithmetic." So at 17, a year later, I took my final examinations and I failed every single one. English, arithmetic, history, geography, all these things I got zero. I failed completely. After 12 years of school, I got a big zero. I got a job in a factory and I had to walk 5 miles to this factory back. And one day I remember seeing a leaf fall from a tree. And as the leaf left the foliage, it changed the pattern. And when it fluttered down and it landed on the ground, so it changed that pattern. And I wondered if some way I could change the pattern in my brain. Could I learn to be cleverer? So I began to try to memorize information, whatever. Then I hitchhiked around Europe and then I joined the army. And in the army, I learned that if I had to do something, I could do it. And that changed my whole life. It gave me a strength of confidence to do what I believed I could do. Then I wanted to sail around the world. I wanted to meet other countries and other people and explore life. I couldn't do that without a school certificate. So I went to college at the age of 20, back to school. Two very important things that changed that are missing in so many children.
Okay.
The confidence to control information. The confidence and self-belief that you can do this and I'm going to do it. And the other one is the purpose to do it, the drive. Now for me, it was that I wanted to sail around the world. And if I didn't pass this paper, I couldn't get a job on a ship and I couldn't sail around the world. So that was my drive. And because of that, I worked very hard. I learned. And then I developed very good memory strategies. And then after the first year, I was the top student. And when I left after 3 years, my qualifications were exceptionally high, 90% in A-levels and things like that. How could I be so clever when I was 24 and so stupid when I was 17? What was wrong with me, or what was wrong with the school system? In my 30s, I asked myself a question: if children still suffered as I'd done. I didn't want any child to fail the way I'd done. I began to talk to schools and teachers, and I found out that nothing had changed. In 150 years, we still fail to teach our children how to learn. How can it be possible? So I spent 10 years, I dedicated 10 years of my life to discover the whole political, social mechanism by which society uses school to create the next citizen worker. and therefore how school really works, how the society works, how it's designed to work, so that children are not designed to learn. They are processed to take some kind of a role in the society according to the technology of the society. And then, of course, the real danger is that without realizing this, we are not preparing the child of today for the probable world that they will live and work in. And I've dedicated 30 years of my life on that issue and written these books, which are said by professors all around the world to be some of the best books written about school, society, and learning. My first book, The Illusion of Education, this basically explains that schools globally work on a 19th century political design to produce the manager or the managed. And the way it works is that school doesn't work on intelligence, it works on language skills. I'll explain those in a minute. So the children enter the school system at the age of 5 or 6 or 7. They are processed on their ability to understand the language, and at the end of this processing system, they're then routed to university or into college or direct into work. Now, in school, they're taught dualistic thinking, which is yes or no, or I don't understand, or what is this? They're not taught how to inquire and be inquisitive in information. We play around with the idea of critical thinking, but it doesn't work. Those who go into university, they are taught the higher evaluative reasoning skills because the responsibility they will have in society and management and industry. Those who are deprived of that education purposely are deprived of this high reasoning skills because they are to be compliant with the general managers in society and industry. This is the 19th century design to create stability in society. It worked in the industrial era, the technological era, the computer era, and it's beginning to fail in the artificial era. And it will dramatically do that once nanotechnology develops more than it is doing now. Then, how can I really help teachers to help students to learn better? The problem is that one teacher will give the same information to 2 students. One student will know the answer, the other student will struggle. And the teacher will say, well, it's not my fault because I gave the same information. There's something different about the students. And they will be aware of socio-economic factors, but basically we are born different. So the teacher will assume that the child who didn't understand is born with less ability, as people thought of me when I was 17 years old. So I spent many years understanding genetics to write the first book, which proves why intelligence is not genetically inherited. I went back 200 years to find lies, fraud, deceit of information by senior psychologists to convince civilization that intelligence is inherited for purely political purposes. So, for example, now it's used in America, the idea of intelligence, that it's supposed that white people are 15 points higher in intelligence than black people. It's not true. But it creates a mindset so that money is given to a sector of children and deprived of other children, so that one children will have greater opportunity to manage the society. And it's how it works. If we don't inherit intelligence, what do we inherit that enables us to be intelligent? And so I studied neurology, and I wrote a new concept about what intelligence is called the brain-environment complex. Incidentally, we don't have intelligence. I don't have it, and neither do you. The idea that we have intelligence, the idea is that we are born with the factor of intelligence. The reality is that we don't have intelligence. Intelligence is the word created to enable 2 human beings to be evaluated for a role purpose in the society. The idea that we have intelligence came from the 19th century, where they were trying to find out how we can learn and how we can adjust to the world about us. At that time, intelligence was thought to have many social, religious, criminal factors. They needed to find some way to classify human beings for the roles in the factories and the industrial world that was developing. Spearman came up with the idea in 1904 that one day our scientists will find a segment of intelligence in the human brain. Well, we never did, and we don't have intelligence. We have the ability to learn to relate to the world about us, and that's based very much on our emotional competence. And so then this idea of intelligence was then taken over for political purposes. But basically, it all comes down to love. And as I explain in this book here, Mediation, it is a factor of just understanding emotion. Now, in the school system, We tend to evaluate students on what we think their ability is, how intelligent they are. It's not this. Any normally born individual doesn't suffer from chromosomal mutation or oxygen starvation, can obtain very high grades in school. School works on what we call languages. There are two languages in school. One is mathematics, the other is English, French, German, whatever it is, and these work on rules. Now, if the child comes from a stimulated home background, and the problem is that many parents don't know how to do that. 20% of parents in the population may be aware of, can we settle down? We need to understand that the school doesn't work on intelligence, it works on language skills. And there are two languages, one is English, mathematics, or wherever the language happens to be in the country. And these work on rules. Now, if the child is happy at home, well, first of all, we need to understand the way the mind works. The mind of the human being has two questions. Number one, am I safe? And what is the most interesting thing that attracts my attention? And that's what educationists don't understand. Every one of us here has these two questions, am I safe? It means that am I safe at home? For us, do I have a financial problem or something like that? To a child, it means, are my parents secure? Are they arguing, are they fighting, are they loving one another? Is everything happy? If it's not happy, the child's mind is trying to solve that problem and they're not able to focus on the teaching process. In the classroom, which is a very competitive environment, and the children are insulting them, hurting them, pushing them down, trying to get more attention from the teacher. And if the child feels, I'm not safe in this learning environment, then the mind is trying to deal with this problem and not focusing on the teacher. And if the teacher doesn't understand the importance of how to teach, then they will appear authoritative, and that will cause the student to feel insecure. If the student feels a sense of security, I am safe, and if the teacher can project the information to the language of the students, according to their level of development, in a most exciting, interesting way, which we do at Kingston College, then it means that the student is focusing on that information. They're listening and they're reading. And this information is going very precisely into the memory networks and connecting with other information that was stored very precisely. So they understand exactly what it is and how to apply it. And it's as simple as that. Generally speaking, the normal student in the class is distracted by these two concerns. Something that doesn't make me feel happy, or it's just boring. And then the mind is drifting. So this information is coming in vague, and it's relating to other vague information stored in the memory networks. And it's kind of loose. They can't understand what to do with it. And it's as simple as that. So if the child understands the rule of mathematics, how to transpose numbers about it, so they'll be good in mathematics. Then they'll be good in sciences, chemistry and physics, which is dealing with formulas. If they know the rules of the language, how to spell a word, grammar construction, syntax, and how to tell a story, they'll get good marks. This would inspire them to want to learn. We need to understand that once you understand the rule, and school is just endless rules built upon another. If the child understands the rule, they know how to think. So when they're giving a learning task, they can negotiate through it. This is fun. I know what I'm doing. I like it. And I'm inspired. Now, in the West, we spend huge amounts of money, billions, on creative classrooms. Designer desks, designer implements to create creativity. It makes no difference. We still get one or two kids who are smart and the rest are confused. Creativity comes from inside you when you know you're good and something is stimulating for you to do it. And therefore, that's how we need to change the educational process. The point being is that the child of today will live in a very different world than you and I are aware of. We hear about artificial intelligence. We don't really understand how it's currently taking over our social dynamics, the opportunity to do work. But if we go a little bit further to understand what nanotechnology could be capable of, then it's really very disturbing, very frightening. And as I explained in my 5th book, Preparing a New World Education, the design of nanotechnology, and there are proto-models about this, are very small machines, nanosize. You can't see them, of course. There's two kinds predicted. One is a dissembler, and the other is an assembler. Now, a dissembler can drill into any substance, rock, soil, wood, clay, whatever, according to its computer, analyze the molecular structure, disassemble that compound into individual atoms. An assembler will then follow it in, and according to its computer program, connect these atoms to create a new compound. In a sense, one machine produces another machine that's self-replicating. According to a computer program, these machines then are linked together to create whatever the design is. The wall, the ceiling, the camera, the computer, everything in the future could possibly be made of these little machines linked together. This raises the question of what is a job? Well, we think I have a job because it enables me to make money. I can buy a car, I can buy this, and I can buy that. The purpose of a job, and it's been used for 6,000 years to hold civilization together, is it gives the individual a purpose. They go somewhere at 8 o'clock in the morning. They may not like it, but they go. They have a sense of responsibility. People respect them for what they're doing. Okay, I get distracted very easily. Sorry. Okay. There's a lot going on in here. Okay. Just remind me, what was I talking about?
You're talking about the new,
the
new world of education, artificial intelligence.
Okay. So, I lost my train of thought there. Sorry, there's so much going on in here. Don't show this on the video. Edit it out. What we need to...
okay, if you allow me, Mr. O'Reilly, may I ask question?
Yeah, of course. Go ahead.
Because you are in a rhythm, you are just explaining the 6 books you are talking about, you have authored the books. My first simple question, what school means to you? What is the meaning of schooling and what is the meaning of parenting? What is the role of parents and teachers in developing the modern child, the modern complexities of education and the learning the socio-economic dynamics of the society?
The original purpose of school was to take the free child, run, laugh, play, happy, to conform to rules, so that in the working society they will basically do what they're told and be responsible. As our technology developed, so we began to teach them more academic subjects. The purpose really of school today should be to produce a questioning mind, an inquiring mind, able to take their own responsibility. The problem is that teachers don't understand how the school mechanism works, so they give information, they evaluate the response, and they grade it. And that's what we do, lesson by year. So at the end of the system, one child gets a grade to go and be a professor or a society, a solicitor. Another child gets a grade to become an engineer. Another child gets to be a cleaner, whatever it is. This is the purpose that school has always been. But once we understand that artificial intelligence is very likely to reduce the opportunity of work in the next 30 years, 50% of people around the planet are possibly unemployed. It means that we have to create a different kind of model citizen. As I said earlier, we're still producing a model citizen based on the 19th century design. We need to create a model citizen who is aware of how to be self-responsible in how they think and also how they behave. This is fundamental, because if we fail in that, then the society, let me just wind back a little bit. Once we understand how nanotechnology can develop, it not only will take away the opportunity for jobs, but the purpose of people within the society.
True.
If you don't have a job, then after 6 months or whatever, you feel, I don't believe in myself, therefore I don't believe in my society. Now we carry 5-8% unemployed people every country, but they're dissipated, we don't see them. 50% of unemployed people, 60% of unemployed people, and you've got a breakdown in the society. How then would the governors of the system maintain security and safety in the system with a vast amount of unemployed people? The obvious answer is more security, more surveillance, and less democracy. And so what I've been trying to do here is to explain the importance of teaching children how to think and how to reason. And so the teachers encourage a questioning mind, so the children just don't accept information, but they question it. And they're then able to control their own lives more by doing so. You know, the word what is this, what shall I do? It causes the child to be dependent upon the authority of the teacher, and then the citizen upon the authority of the managing factor. And it takes place here in the cerebral cortex. This is where the word what lives. But the word how and why lives in the limbic system, which is underneath. This is an emotional factor. And how should this happen? Why is this? How is that? If we encourage the children to develop these two words, how and why, and to have the confidence to use these in the social network, then we can forget all about this word critical thinking. That's all it comes down to. These two words, how and why. So you got a lot of...
So one more important question. You talked about questioning minds, and this is the purpose of schooling and the education, to develop the questioning, the reasoning minds. But my question, Roy, to you is, what is the importance of emotions? You're talking about the reasoning. What is the importance of emotional intelligence, especially developing the empathy and the compassion in the new generations? And on the other side, also developing their ethical minds, their sense of right and wrong, and reasoning along with. What is your take on this?
Let's first of all understand that there are instances where children who've been deprived of emotion, completely deprived of emotion, and they were mindless. They couldn't relate to the world about them. I remember in the 1990s, when the Ceausescu regime collapsed in Romania, we went into these orphanages and we found children. They were lifeless. They were vegetables, like that, with no emotion at all, no intelligence, zero. And a lot of people went in to help them. They taught them love, and they began to relate to the world about them. And what we understand is it is this factor of emotion that causes the individual to relate to the world about them. Now, I've developed a theory called imprinting. Imprinting basically means that we all inherit this ability to imprint. What it basically means is that if I feel a sense of warmth, compassion, interest from you, I want to be like you. Yeah. In a kind of way. I mean, I never will because I'm always myself, but I will subconsciously mimic the strategies that you use. And therefore, I will learn from you very sensitively. But if I feel disturbed, if I feel that this personality is a kind of a danger to me, then I'll pull myself away. And when I do that, I'm less effective in the information that you give to me, because whatever you give contains your personality, which is what teachers very seldom don't understand. So the role of emotion is fundamental in any kind of learning aptitude, even if in school or out school. It all comes down to emotion, which is confidence and security. And so in the learning process in school, if the child has this emotion, I talked about before, am I safe? If I'm not safe, I got an emotional problem. If I'm safe, then I'm calm, relaxed, and concentrate on the world about me, or the learning process.
Excellent. You talked about safety and another very, I need the reflection, your thoughts on this question about parenting, because at the end of the day, it is a chief responsibility of the parents, mother and child, and the father in the developing what is the role of parenting in especially the big picture of education, the schools, the teachers, paradigms, please.
1995, Risley and Hart did research, and they found out that parents who come from an academic background, they know that they can't trust the teacher in school because the teacher doesn't have time for their child. Okay. So they will spend a lot of time prior to school teaching the child how to read, how to write. They'll tell stories. They'll take them on excursions to the zoo or whatever, and give them a sense of confidence and orientation to know how to adjust to each environment. This will give them a sense of who they are and develop a stamina to read and to write. So when they go to school, these kids have the ability to relate to the two-dimensional world of school. Those children who are deprived of that, who have a lesser background in that, they can't concentrate well. Their mind is drifting about, and therefore they're missing these rules I was telling you about. It's very easy. If you go into a play group or a kinder group, you can see one or two children who are interested and listening, and some are running around playing. It all comes from the parents, the way the parents provide the child to the school. So you can say basically, according to the technology, that maybe 20% of parents know how to raise the children, and the other 80%, whatever, including in the UK and in America too, is that they just believe we'll create the child, we love the child, and when the child's 5 years old, we give the child to the teacher and the teacher will do the rest. It doesn't work like that. It's got to be the parent and the teacher working together. One of the big things I hear is that we hear that Finland has the best educational system in the world. But I lived in Denmark for 10 years, and we did research on the way teachers were trained in Finland, Norway, Sweden, and Denmark. The way the mechanism works, it isn't that different. It's kind of the same. They all serve a socialist platform. What is different, and fundamentally so, is that in Finland, when a mother has a baby, she receives a box of books telling books how to read stories and stories to read. So the Finnish mother is sitting with an infant on her lap, reading stories when the child is 6 months old, developing word vocabulary. So the child is learning high language skills, relating to stories and explaining their mind. And when that child goes to school, the school system works on that. In Norway, Sweden, and Denmark, that doesn't happen. The parents give this to the child to play with, which is destroying your civilization, or they put the TV on. And so the reason for Finnish education is basically storytelling. And therefore, what we need to help parents here in Pakistan and all around the world is to tell stories every night to a child, because stories give them imagination. They encourage them to want to interact with the world about them, and also how to present their mind. When a child is in school and they write a composition, or they write an assignment for history or geography, or they write a science report, they are telling their story. It's as simple as that.
Yes.
And if the parents have taught them how to do that effectively, so they get good grades, and that will inspire them to want to learn more. It's as simple as that. Storytelling and language is the secret to understand how education works. It's got nothing to do with intelligence.
Okay, this is another last book, Mr. Roy Andersen, The 5 Ways of Better Grades. Please shed some light. How to get the better grades.
Well,
everybody's going for the GPAs and the grades.
Yeah, well, as I explained to you, it comes down to what you've said, emotion. The content that you believe in yourself, and you're able to control the distractions of other people playing on your mind. If you can put those distractions aside and focus on each rule as it builds up, whatever level you're doing, kindergartner, you undergraduates, whatever, then you're able to relate to the information that's given to you and respond accordingly with higher language skills, and you will be evaluated on that. The system doesn't know what's happening inside your mind. All you're evaluated on is the way you explain yourself or the writing you produce. That's it, language skills.
Language skills. One other question, right, regarding the ethical dilemma, because we are facing especially the new modern gadgets, they are destroying the innocence, the quality of their sense of thinking, right and wrong. Please enlighten us how we can develop ethical citizens.
Well, unfortunately, the mothers of today don't have the skills of parenting that their grandmothers had. And we are losing that because of this. This is really destroying our civilization. Everywhere you go, and in your home, you'll see the daughter doing this, the son doing this, the mother doing this, the father doing this. We're not developing social communication, the confidence to explain our minds. And therefore, when we have a problem, we get frustrated because we don't know how to explain that to another human being. And if another human being is a problem, well, that's your problem. I'm playing my game, or whatever it is. And this is the problem. We are losing this ability to share language and our feelings. And the child of today is going to be the mother and father of tomorrow. Now, quite seriously, this gives out non-thermal radiation to a child whose skull is less dense than ours. This radiation goes in, disturbs their brain chemistry. So they become erratic. They go out of control. They have problems in sleeping. They have behavioral problems. They become fanatic about aspects that should be calm and related. This chemistry is disturbing their ability to relate to the world about them. The problem is we can't control it. A child's doing this, and the mother says, put it down. The child says, no, this is more fun than listening to you. The mother tries to take it away. The child goes into a temper. It's a very serious problem. I remember I was in Turkey, and a man came in to me, and he was crying. He was really, really crying. He said, I can't help me, Roy, because my son plays these games 6 hours every day. His school grades have gone down. I can't control it. It's a very serious problem. The only way that I can suggest is that if the child is young enough, when you take it away, and you say the battery's gone, and I'll get you another one sometime later. Okay. Then you've got to put the energy in. You can't just take it away and say, go and play, because they don't know how to play. And we've got to learn again how to be parents. So we've got to put the energy in. I remember once there was a principal of a school, and she called me from Kuala Lumpur in Malaysia. She said, Roy, my 15-year-old boy won't stop playing games. What can I do? So I talked to him on the Skype. And I found out he would like to do fishing. So I said to his mother, take him fishing. She said, I don't know anything about fishing. I said, well, learn. I called her back 3 months later. I said, how's it going? She says, oh, he's doing his computers. I said, did you go fishing? She said, no, I got no time. I'm too busy. The problem is that the mother didn't want to go fishing because she doesn't know how to do it. But it was the learning aspect. It was the making mistakes and doing things together that create the memory, that create the bonding. And that's what we're lacking. All the children are bonding now is with this, not with human beings. And these are the kind of citizens that we are globally producing in the future.
My another question. Pandemic came, COVID-19 just, and there's a total shutdown of the schools all over the globe, 180 plus countries. Now, again, the second wave came again. People thought initially, it is over, but it's just another start, new start. And the challenge, the school, the kids, the parents, the teachers, and the whole system globally in Pakistan as well. What the challenge? What is your strategy to overcome the pandemic challenge? How we can continue the schooling system, the process of education, learning? Otherwise, students are really losing their attention and focus. What is the solution?
Well, there's two issues here. First of all, there's the issue of the children whose parents can't afford the technology to enable them to keep.
Yes.
This is a very serious problem. A very serious problem. Those children are really falling out behind. And we're going to maintain this huge social gap. They'll never catch up. However, for those whose parents can afford some kind of digital equipment, whatever, if the school is able to develop good online teacher training, and it's becoming more effective, teachers are learning how to handle this situation better. And there's also the role of the parent. Before this, the parent, the only function of the parent, they drive it to the school, drop the kids off, pick them up at 3:30 and say, "Did you learn? And are you happy? Great. That's it, finished." Now the role of the parent is to sit with the child and find out what the child's learning. So there's a big difference. You know, the teacher's talking on Zoom, whatever. There's one child who's learning, his mother's sitting there helping the child, another kid sitting there with noises in the background, other children running around, the TV blaring on, the concentration is less. We need to help parents to understand the role they've got now in this new education process, because now the parent must take more responsibility in this learning process.
Parents are too depressed. Mostly parents lost their jobs and they're really having stressful period of their career.
This is a very, very serious problem. I remember when it began, I wrote a paper about the possible effects, the psychological effects of this. About 4 months after it began, I had a very good friend in Nepal. And at that time, Nepal was very, very low infection rate. And it was something like about 50 people who died. That was it, after 4 months in Nepal. But there was 1,500 suicides.
Oh.
And then when I go on the internet now, I find this is concealed. The suicide rate is concealed. It's only Japan that appears to be open about the suicide effect. It's a very serious problem. And the governments are concealing this for obvious reasons. And we are a human. We are a social animal. We need other human beings.
Yes, of course.
This
one challenge parents are really, you just already mentioned, the new kids are not interacting because of the technology, overpowering the innocence and especially the life of the kids. How we can make the kids to develop the interpersonal skills? Because these skills are really, people are talking about intelligence, talking about emotional intelligence, but I talk about the interpersonal skills. Students, teachers, even parents are lacking because they're totally involved. The father is involved in making money. Father is now renamed as a finance manager. He's not a father.
Yeah, this is true. You're absolutely true. It's brilliant what you just said. Completely brilliant. And it comes down to that if the lockdown gets any worse and people are again constrained within their own homes, confined, then we must develop some kind of a social game, so that we reenact what we used to do normally. We've got to be aware of this. And the depression is a very serious factor. I mean, I've been here in this beautiful country, and I love it here. I love the people very, very much. But when this lockdown began, I was basically in the room by myself. My children are, I got a wife in Russia, I got a child in, not a child, she's a grown-up lady now in Nepal, and one in Australia. I can't be with them. I'm in this room. It's like being in a spaceship. I always wondered what it would be like to be an astronaut. I disturbingly found out.
Okay, Roy, we are just now the closing part of the questions, a few short questions. Mr. Roy, how did you find Pakistan? 3 things about the best things about Pakistan the last 1 year.
It's got to be the people. The people are beautiful here. There's a level of respect that doesn't exist in the West anymore. And there's no danger here. Oh, before I came, people said, you're going to get blown up, you get machine gun in the streets. It's safer here than it is in London. It is a very calm, beautiful society. The people have this social interactions it's other people can learn from. There's a kindness among people here. Perhaps it comes from the religion, but whatever. But there's a humanity here, and they have a wonderful supporting system. And it's amazing. People could learn from it. The big problem, of course, is that it's still a feudal system. There's a rich people controlling the masses. It belonged to a different era. Technology is going to change that, and we've got to adapt. Otherwise, we're going to be left behind.
Okay. There's a big gap between the have or have not because of the feudal system and the bureaucratic system.
And it's kept this way.
And again, we have the legacy from the colonial mindset, from the Queen Victoria. They left the legacy, and we are following the legacy of this feudalism. If they would have changed the structural changes before partition and after that, might be that we do not see the problem right now.
Maybe so.
Maybe I may be wrong, but the fact is fact. Okay, sir. Mr. Roy, last few questions. But difficult decisions you made in life, being a human being, being a professional.
I faced a lot of pain in my life, and I found that the only way you can combat any type of hurt to you is just to give love.
It's true?
To give love.
To give love.
To give love. It's the only...
Not to get love?
No, to give love. It's by giving love. And this is why I love Islam. If you understand what Islam is really about, and people do not in the West, it is just love. It's all it is.
It is a really a godly gift. You are a giver. I never found that people with anxiety and the stress, the two people. The first is the giver, the second is the tourist. They always have a smiling face.
Yeah, it's very true.
Yeah?
Yeah, it's very, very true.
Either you're a giver or you're a tourist. Which country you like most of? You travel throughout the world.
Well, at this moment, it's got to be Pakistan.
Which school system you liked most?
Well, I would say my own. But I think the reality is that I've explained to you here, is that schools, they're just processing it. They have different curriculums, different models, but the end result is you get one or two coming out of the classroom who understand the rest, and the rest are confused. It is not the curriculum, it is not the school system. It all comes down to the ability of the human teacher to relate to the minds of the human students.
And again, this is a question you will be answering the same way or a different way. How do you define a teacher?
Well, I would like, I rather think that, of course, we envisage a teacher standing by a blackboard with a lot of rows and a lot of kids in front of them. But for me, a teacher is a wise person, a man or a lady, sitting down on the floor with kids around them, interacting, helping them develop and think. This is it. What is your thoughts? And that's what we need to bring into the classroom. And in fact, I've designed a classroom system that enables the teacher to do that, to be able to get into this one-to-one with every student and develop their thinking through a questioning mind. So they're questioning. If I have in my mind a chair, and you have a chair in your mind, and this lady has a chair, it's only by dialogue. It's only by talking.
Engagement.
Yes, exactly.
It's engagement.
And the school system is not designed to encourage that.
True.
Because the school system is not designed to enable children to really understand. It is just to find who can be the professional class, the engineering class, and the cleaning class. That's all it is.
Last short questions. How do you manage your anger and stress?
Personally?
Yeah.
Well, I was very fortunate is that the Vice-Chancellor of the Government College University gave me a Quran.
Mr. Zadi?
It's a huge book. If the Quran was that size, I would lose it, whatever. The Quran he gave me is about this size. It's about that thick. And whenever I see it, I've got to pick it up and I've got to kiss it and say a prayer. And if we can just remember that God, Allah, is with us everywhere, not just living in the sky, but everywhere with us. And we can have that contact. And that peace can help us to move away from the stress that's causing us to be angry. I found out in my life there are no problems. If we have a problem, managerial, whatever it is, that problem, I got stress. How can I solve that problem? Oh my God, it's a problem. And that causes chemistry in the brain to start creating all kinds of effects, and you get a headache and you can't see it. We have no problems. We have puzzles. Allah gives us puzzles. And He only gives us the puzzles that we can find the solution to. So if we calm down, come out of the situation and see how it's really working, then we can see how to knit this puzzle together.
This is the base. This is the base. The puzzle is a maze.
Yes.
You have to find a way. It's really touching to know you converted to Muslim in 2008. What 2-3 basic changes you felt you changed in your behavior, in your thoughts, in your attitude? Any change?
I think it just helped me to find inner peace.
Inner peace.
Inner peace. And to generate love. And to, when I see an angry situation, just to realize that it's because the people have lost that purity with God. They've lost it.
What is the power of faith in shaping the behavior of the human beings?
Faith.
Yes. Faith. What is faith? What is the power of faith?
The belief.
Yes.
The belief that there is a greater energy force who's controlling you, or who's helping you, assisting your life.
Invisible hands that are supporting you.
Absolutely. Absolutely. You've took the words out of my mouth. Really, that's true enough.
Your inspiration, Mr. Roy Andersen, to whom you use your mentor, you really learn, because you yourself a teacher, a mentor, a writer.
Well, of course, we've all met different people in our lives who have helped us.
Except your wife, because he's mentor for every husband.
Well, that's true. That's very true.
Am I right?
Absolutely. That's very, very true. I think that if there's one person who really changed my life, it was my maths teacher when I was 20 years old, when I went back to school. Because I was learning mathematics again. And he came along and he said to me, "Roy, what are you doing?" And I said, "Well, I'm not sure. I don't know." He said, "Look, it's just a puzzle. It's a game." I thought, "It's a game? Oh, it's not serious. Whew, relax." And then he said, "There's information, some of it's hidden, and you've just got to find out what's hidden." And I was able to do that to a very high level. But what he did to me, he said, "You can do this. You can do this." It was a magic one. Like a kind of the most intelligent man in the universe to me at that time said to me, "You can do this." And suddenly I thought, wow, I can do it. Then I stopped worrying about what other people think I can't do, and I began to concentrate, and then I could do it.
Sir, last question, because paucity of time does not allow me to go into more details, because you are itself an encyclopedia of information and knowledge. And if we dig more, we have to spare more time, but time does not allow me to go into details. Sir, we have another part 2 session, just part 1, part 2, part 4 books. Okay? Last question, your message of optimism, especially for general, for the global audience, and particularly for the Pakistani young people, of hope and optimism.
Yeah, and especially in this pandemic, so it's a very serious problem. We have to accept that this pandemic came for a purpose. Now, we are concerned about money. If I can't get a job, I can't get the money, I can't feed this. But we can survive. But what has really happened? There's a very good movie came out about 20 years ago called An Indisputable Truth by Al Gore. And he was explaining at that time the probable reality of how global warming can cause catastrophic effects in our civilization. When this pandemic came, the production stopped, pollution stopped. We could actually see the stars at night time, which we couldn't before. The smog disappeared. Things began to grow again. The planet went through a healing process. And this is fundamental to our survival. We can, you and I can get depressed, we can be unhappy, we can say, "Well, I don't have the money for this anymore." But we're forgetting that if we don't have a planet to live on, there's no point. So my understanding is that Allah gave us this time, gave the planet a time.
Wow.
And everybody to find peace in themselves, to learn to find peace in themselves. So we need to spread this message that, okay, things aren't as you hoped they are, things aren't as you expected them, but find peace in yourself. Just to be able to have peace in an empty room is a marvelous thing.
Wow. Thank you very much, Mr. Roy. I am really grateful for your very insightful conversation.
Thank you,
It's
sir.
a meaningful conversation.
I really enjoyed it.
And thank you very much. The 3 key learnings of the whole talk with Roy Andersen is a very famous and renowned educationist. The first is questioning mind. learn to question. And Chinese used to say, if you ask question, you are a fool for once. If you do not ask question, you remain fool forever.
Yes, beautiful, very beautiful. Very
This is
beautiful.
sum up. Okay.
Yeah.
The second key learning of Mr. Roy's conversation is all about interpersonal skills, because we need to know, rather than going for the gadgets, we learned to connect, to engage with other human beings, with other students, other people. We are social beings, social animals. This is a second key learning of this talk. And the last, third, not least, the inner peace.
Very true.
Mr. Andersen just converted to Islam and he's just found a new peace inside. If he does not find or discover this new peace of mind, definitely Mr. Andersen will be facing pieces of mind. That is blessing. He got a peace of mind rather than pieces of mind.
Very true. It's very, very true.
Thank you, Mr.
Thank you.
So these are the key learnings, and we are again obliged and really humbled. Mr. Andersen is here. Trust me, I never found a person who's more enthusiastic and penned down, authored 7 books, and especially the fourth thing, Mr. Andersen, we should learn to tell stories. Every parent, every student, every teacher, they learn, because at the end of the day, we are all stories.
Exactly.
My teacher told me this universe of the science student, I was science student, of physics and chemistry I was learning. My teacher told me, Mr. Ijaz, this universe is not made up of atoms, this universe is made up of stories.
Beautiful. It's very true.
Yes.
It's very, very true.
We are made of stories. And we will go, we will evaporate, sometime we will be in the air, and we will be story.
Yeah. It's
And
very
the
true.
books and the memories. So build the memories, build the stories, and share the stories.
It's
So
very
these
true.
are the key learnings. Please find this interview at the See You Today TV on the YouTube. Please subscribe our channel, or Facebook Management House Ijaz Sir, Mr. Roy Andersen Facebook page. You can learn, and you can also give the feedback for more questions. For the second part, we will have larger audience for learn from you, for your wisdom, sir.
Inshallah.
Larger part, because my teacher told me, Mr. Roy, when you know yourself, when you know others, it is called wisdom. When you know yourself, it is called enlightenment. So, I can confidently say, Mr. Roy Andersen is not a wise man, he is an enlightened man and blessed man. Thank you very much. Allah Hafiz.
Thank you.